All right, welcome back to this episode where we're going to talk about the header, the footer template, and page layout settings. Okay, so on this website, on this brand new website, I have now installed Elementor, the free version, and Elementor Pro, the paid version, which then gives me access to the theme builder, which we can find under the templates tabs, where you can actually create a header and a footer. But before we do that, let's see what the current state is. So if we go to pages and we go to a random page, for example, the home, I've put a few widgets on this home, give it a background, as you can see. We have the header, which is just a name, and then this menu over here, and then the footer. And this is generated by Astra, because if we change the theme, so let's just do that again and activate this one, and we go back to the home and click on refresh, we can now see that we have a different header and footer. But we don't want to use any theme parts, we want to create our own. So let's just do that. I'm going to go to template and then to the theme builder. And then it opens the theme builder. Right now it opens this new theme builder. I am not a big fan of this new theme builder because it gives you less options than the old version. I don't like that it's full screen because I cannot go back to my WordPress easily. I can click on the X, but I don't know. I don't like this. It has less features. So if you turn it off, you will get the old theme builder, which I'm going to use in this course. So if you like to use this new version, then feel free. But the only thing you can do here is to add a new one. You cannot change the name. You cannot duplicate things. So I don't like this theme builder. Let's just tackle this right now. We're going to go to Elementor and then go to settings. And if you go to features and you scroll down, then you can deactivate this setting called default to the new theme builder. If you put it on inactive, you click on save changes and then go to your theme builder again, then you will stay within the WordPress menu. They will still try to convince you that their new one is better, but I am not convinced, so I'm clicking that away. I just like to have my menu here on the right and have the normal WordPress menu because like I said, there are more options. So here you can then create your header template if you want to. So it's really easy. You just click over here, you call it header version 1, which is the name I always use because sometimes you have different versions, so then you can go to 2 or 3. So header version 1, the users of the website don't see that name, so it doesn't really matter that much. And here you can then choose one of their templates, but I like to design everything myself. So I never use their templates because they're also import styling and it becomes a mess. So you can just X this, and here you can already see a problem. So this is why I said changing your design with the theme is kind of a thing from the past because it also overlaps. So I'm also going to fix that before we're going to do this. And yes, I'm aware that my explanation now sounds a little bit messy, but I want to show you these mistakes because I know many people struggle with these themes, with the theme thing. So if you go back to WordPress and you go to themes, make sure you have another theme. Astra is okay, but I do always recommend to just pick Elementor's default theme, which is Hello Elementor. You can install that and then activate it. And like I said, Hello Elementor is the clean theme. You don't get anything you don't need in it. You can do almost everything with that theme. So only if you really know what you're doing, choose anything else than Hello Elementor, because even for WooCommerce, there are many great options now within Elementor Pro itself, so you don't even need Astra anymore. I never use it. I built all my websites with Hello. That should give you enough confidence to also do that. So again, only if you know what you're doing, then do that. So now if you go back to your header template and you click on refresh, you will see that those theme parts are gone and we just have a clean canvas we can create our header in. So this part of the course is not for design, so I'm just going to show you how it works. That's it. We're not going to do anything crazy. I'm just going to create 2 containers right here. You can drag in your logo on the left over here with the site logo. That is a possibility, but then you have to set that up. But the most important thing for now you have to understand is that the nav menu widget, which you can import, will then ask you to select a menu from WordPress. Like I showed you before, the menu that you want in your header is not created in Elementor, but it's loaded in from WordPress. So before you create your header, you actually have to go to menus over here and then create a menu. So I always call this top main because sometimes I have more menus. So there's a menu on the top and it's the main menu. You don't have to set up anything over here because this is only relevant when you use the theme header, but we're not going to use that. Then you can see it on the left over here. I'm just going to add these 2 pages. Like I said, click on save. Then you can go back to your header, click on refresh again. It will ask you to reload. So sometimes you want to save it with save draft. Don't click on publish yet because you're not ready. You can click on save draft and then you can reload and then you can load in the menu. Oh, it does it automatically. Over here, you can select it. You can see here's the name that we just created, the menu. And then you can style this. You can add your logo, social media icons, anything you want. Again, this is not the design part of the course, but I just wanted to show you how that works. You create your header menu over here. And then once you're ready, you click on publish or you go to display conditions. It's the same. For some of you, this tab, this bar, will be on the top right because Elementor is changing their interface. So for some of you, it's over here, but for me, it's over here. You click on publish, which will then show the conditions. And then you can tell Elementor that you want this template to show on the entire site. This should say include. I don't know why for me it's white, but this should say include. Include this header on the entire site. And when you then click on close and then go back to your website, this is still an old version of the home. Let's see if we have a new one. Yes, this was Astra. Refreshing it again. And now, as you see, it works. My header is not designed very well, as you can see, but it does work. So here you can style it, make it nice, and then it automatically shows up on all of your pages. Right now, it doesn't show here, but I'm going to click refresh again. Sometimes you need to click refresh a few times in order to make it work. As you can see, now it works. Great. And this is the same with the footer. It works exactly the same. So you can go back to your theme builder. You can click on the footer, add a new footer, footer version 1, and you can use one of their footers or you can create your own. For now, I'm going to import it. I do not recommend that, but I'm just doing that to explain. So here you can see a footer with some widgets inside of it. All of the options that are available and what is smart to do will be explained in a later episode because right now we're just talking about dynamic content, how it works. So what I want you to understand from this is that you save it in the theme builder and then you set up the conditions via the publish button or over here, display conditions, and you add this footer, make sure it's include on the entire site. There are some more options here because sometimes you don't want your header to be included on all the pages, right? Sometimes you have a page where you don't want that. You can also do that with the conditions. You can say include this one, but exclude the following page. And then you can go to singular and go to pages and then search for the page. So for example, the sample page. And then you can save that as well. I have a little problem here, as you can see with the text, but this is also an option that you should know. You can also exclude pages, but even post or even WooCommerce, whatever you want. And make sure to always save your changes. Also with the footer, let's just try that right now. We're gonna go back to our home, refresh it. Doesn't work, refresh it again. Doesn't work, refresh it again. Okay, I think I didn't save it that well. Let's try. Oh, I didn't click on publish. So we're gonna save it again, go back to our home, refresh it. Okay, now finally it works. So here you can see the footer that we have just set up. So now if you go back to your theme builder, you can see that we have created a header version 1 and a footer version 1. And you can also find them under the tabs over here if you have a lot of things in your theme builder. And again, I don't use the new theme builder because you cannot even change the name. Over here, you can still say quick edit and change it to version 2, for example, if you want to. Or you can export the template. Or if you have a duplicate plugin, you can duplicate it. And you can see instances over here, so where it's applied. There's just a lot more features here, so I don't really understand why they are pushing the new theme builder. Whatever, now you know the basics. Header and the footer are the most simple parts. They override the theme parts. So now we can move on to the more complex stuff like creating custom post types. So I will see you in the next episode. Okay, welcome back. We're now going to talk about the loop grid. So in the last episode, I've showed you how you can create individual loops like this. And now we're going to actually create the whole grid. And I will also show you what is the difference between a loop grid and an archive page. I think I have already explained that, but I will now show it in real life or in a real example. Is I'm going to go to my website and I'm going to just open a normal page. So let's go to the home page. For example, I'm going to open that with Elementor and I will show you how I've done that. So again, this is just a normal page with a lot of static content, nothing dynamic. But then if I want to display a list of dynamic content, so for example, the testimonial section, then I have to use the loop grid widget, which is exactly what I've done over here. I just search for it again, loop grid, there it is. Okay, so let's do it again. Let's recreate what we've done over here. You can insert your loop grid widget. Sometimes it bugs a little bit because Elementor does not always work perfectly. And then you will get this. It's even possible to create your loop in here, but I don't like that. That's why I explained in the last episode that it's better to just go to the theme builder and then go to loop item and click on create. But technically it's possible to also do it here. So what can you do from here? From here you can select what you want to display. For example, blog post, that is possible, or products. This is a little bit confusing because right now it seems like you don't have an option to display your custom post type. But WordPress sees custom post also as post, so sometimes there's another setting you need to look for if post is the only option you have, and that is actually in the query over here. So query means a filtering on what you want to show, and then here you can see that we can choose from our different custom post types that we have on this website. For now, I want to display a list of testimonials, so I select the testimonials. It still doesn't show that because we still need to select a template. So here it should actually say choose a loop template. We have just created a loop template. You go back to your theme builder, you go to loop items, and then you search for the loop you want to include. So here, the loop grid. Let's open it to check it if it's the right one. Yes, this looks like it. It's a bit wide, but that is the one that we want. So I'm going to search for testimonial. Let's see if it pops up. Yes, it pops up. I'm going to select it. And now it does show the testimonials. Great. By default, it creates 3 columns, but you can change that. There are a few settings over here. For example, you can change it to 2. And you can also decide how many testimonials you want to display. By default, it's on 6, but you can also say, I only want 4. So if you select 4, then you can see that we only have 4. And if the content inside of the loops is not the same length, then it doesn't look that good as you can see. So then you can turn on masonry. And then it works more like a Tetris game, as you can see. But now the spacing is not good. And that is something that we can change inside of the styling options. So columns is this space. So we, for example, can put that at 20. And the rows is the vertical, and you can put that at 20 as well. And then it looks a little bit better. All right. So now we have just created the exact same thing as over here, which was quite easy to do. You can just import it, you change a few of the settings, you make sure you have the right custom post type. You have a few settings here to change the order if you want to, which is nice if you want to change the order. This is ascending and descending for if you don't know what that means. And that's all you need to know to display a short list on a normal page. So I'm going to delete this for now. Now we're going to go to another example, which we can find on another page. So on the About page, I'll show you another example. I have also used that same technique. So over here, what this is a post that has the loop called Team Loop version 1, which I created, which is just one of these things. The maximum column is 3, but on this page, I want to show all of the team members. So I've just put a 999 in here so that I'm sure that no matter how many people they add, they're going to show up at this page. Well, actually the maximum is 1,000, but that's more than enough for now. And there's one more thing that you need to know, and that is pagination. If you have a lot of content and you want to show that all on the page, it's not smart to load in everything in the beginning, because then your page becomes really slow. So you have infinity scroll. So then when the people scroll to the bottom of the page, it will load more items if there are more items. You can also have load on click, which will then create a button over here, which you can style a little bit. Or you have previous and next buttons. You can even add how many pages there are to maximum. So for example, if you would say that your page only has 3 items per page, then it will create previous and next, which you can style also, or just numbers, which is the most clean way to do it. So that's also an option if you want to have multiple pages. I, for example, done that with the blog. So let's go back to the blog. So a blog is often a place where there are a lot of posts. So then you want to have pagination. So here you can see you have 1 and then page 2. And then when you go to page 2, it loads in more content. So it really depends on what you want to go for, but there are a few options here. For now, I'm not going to save these changes, but you can do that. And then in the styling options, you can make it into the colors and the sizes that you want. So far we have added the loop grid to normal pages, which we can find under the Pages tab. But what if you want to create an archive, for example, for a blog where you also have category pages? So again, if you are on your blog, I can also go to the tips and tricks page, which then creates this page, which is automatically generated because it's an archive page. This is also a loop grid. So now we're going to go to the next step, which is working with the loop grid inside of an archive template. So I will see you in the next episode. All right, welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to show you how you can create a loop item. So far, we have talked about archive pages that automatically generate category pages. We've talked about normal pages like a home page, which is static, but we haven't talked about how to create these little things that loop. So for example, over here on the blog, one little post, how do you design that? So again, this is what we call a loop. And then this whole thing is a loop grid because it's a grid with a lot of loops. And it uses dynamic data from WordPress. You can display it on a whole page like this inside of an archive, which then automatically creates category pages, or you can use it on a static page like a home page, where you just display a preview, 3 posts or 6 posts or whatever you want. You can even use it for related posts. You also need a loop for that. This is one loop. And then this is a loop grid. And again, you can make these things clickable, like for a blog, because you want somebody to click on the loop and then go to the whole blog post. This is also the same in a web shop where you have a loop of a product and then you go to the full product page. But you don't have to make them clickable like on a Themes page, where you just use the custom post feature to display a list of loops. So let's see how it works inside of Elementor. So inside of your theme builder, you now have the item called loop item. You can add a new loop item, make sure it's on loop, and you can just leave this at posts. So for now, let's just try to create a job loop version 1, because what I'm going to create right now is this loop. So this loop is clickable because it needs to go to the job single posts, and it has some fields. It has a title, it has an excerpt, and it has 2 custom fields and a button to go to the post. We're not going to do the whole visual part, but I'm just going to show you how it works technically, because the whole container and design system is for another chapter. Okay, so just make sure you give it a name and create the template. So here you can see that we already have like a small window because Elementor knows that you're now creating a loop. So many loops are not full width. This one is, but many loops like a block are like small, right? You have 3 columns next to each other. So Elementor already gives you this small window for you, but you can change that if you want to. So you can just pick a container and then you can change the width over here via the settings, the preview settings. And here you can first of all set up the width, so make it wider. Right now, we just want to use the full width. So I'm going to just put it at 1140 because that's the width that I've set up for this website. We will cover that later in another chapter, everything about width. For now, I want to make it wide because this is the loop that I want to create, right? So by default, it's just small. And then here, in the same way as for your single post template, you can preview the data that you want, because right now it's on post. So that means that whenever I drag in, for example, a post title, it will bring in the blog content. But what we want is we want to have the jobs as a preview. So we can go over here, put it on job, and then it will probably say like engineer or something. I'm going to click on apply and preview. And now you can see, okay, it picks up the manager, which is the first one over here. So it will use this data as a starting point. So that's great. We don't have a lot of settings over here. So now you can just add your fields. There's one thing that I did not explain yet, and that is the excerpt field. What is that? You will need that in many loops. So you know by default, let's go back to our normal posts. You have the main content block. But WordPress has already a feature built in called Excerpt, which you can find over here. So if you open the screen options, you can select it, and then you will get an extra box over here. This box can be used inside of loops to give a preview of the actual post. So what happens a lot of the times is that you have a lot of content here, but you already want to show a little bit of text before people click on the post in order to convince them to read the post. This happens a lot with blog posts as well. So here you can see we have the name of the post, and here there's already a little preview. So how you do that is by making sure to enable that excerpt, that's what they call it, and then you can put something here to convince people to get to your posts. Right now I've turned it on, but that doesn't mean it's also turned on in the jobs. So let's go to Manager. And let's see, right now it's not turned on. Even if you go over here, it's not available. And that is because this is a custom post type, and you need to turn that on inside of your custom post type plugin. So we're gonna go back right now, because this is a thing that you're gonna use a lot when you're creating loops. So I'm gonna go back to my post types in ACF, open it, scroll down to advanced, and here you can see that we have that. All right, I'm gonna make sure to enable that. I'm gonna save, open your post, and now you see that it's enabled. So here you can put some text in that you can use in your loop. So for example, this managing role is great. Click on this post. It's not a very good convincing text, but whatever, we're just gonna test this. I'm gonna click on update, and now we can also drag in that content from over here. So let's just try that. I'm gonna drag in the post excerpts, and automatically it pulls it in. I didn't even refresh this page, so that is great how Elementor has built that. Okay, so what do we need in our design for our jobs listing? We need 2 custom fields. Again, I already showed you how to create a list like that, so we can just copy it from this page. So I'm gonna open my jobs single. Our icons and colors are not good, but we can just copy that because all the data is already in here. Wait, let's change this one real quick because I didn't set that up correctly. Okay, I've made sure the right field is in. And now I'm gonna copy this field and I can just paste it over here. And there you can see, it now drags in the data from the manager. See, 30,000, 30 to 40, and there it is. So this is very similar already. The only thing we have to do is add the button on the right here. So I can just drag in a button like this and just make sure that that button links to the actual post. How you do that is by going to link over here, because this is where the button links to something, and you're just gonna click on post URL. And now this button links to the post of the manager. So then it should go to this page. But that's only when we insert our loop grid somewhere, because the only thing we're now creating is one of these boxes. So this is something that you can do. It's great. You can also make other things clickable. For example, the title, because many people will click on the title as well to go to a post. So you can go to your title, link, same exact thing, post URL. If you want to make this whole box clickable, then you should not link anything, because if there's a link inside of a link, then Elementor doesn't like that and it will probably crash. So you need to choose whether you're going to make this whole box clickable or just some items. I prefer to make buttons and titles clickable, and sometimes even images if there are. So for example, with a blog, I make this one clickable, and this one clickable. And the category then is also clickable, but that links to the category page. That depends on what you want. By the way, if you want to add a category, you can do that by adding post info. There's a lot of dynamic data in here. So let's just try that. This is not part of my design right now. As you can see, there's no category, but for a blog, you sometimes need that. This is what they give you by default, but you can delete all of that and you can change this to terms, because categories is part of terms. I know it's a bit confusing because you just learned that taxonomies is like a mother to a category, and terms is the same. So here you can see, if you open the terms, then the taxonomies open, and then you can choose a category, and then it will show the categories which we have set up for this manager. But we didn't actually do that. We didn't actually create any categories, but that is how you can do that inside of a blog post when you actually have categories. So that's something I wanted to show as well. It's really important. You can also add images if you want to. You can add anything you want. Just make sure you add the image. Right now, I've added the featured image widget, but inside of our post, we didn't use that actually. We have our own image. So then the featured image doesn't work. You need to insert a normal image and then link that normal image to the field in our post. So over here, there it is, job image. See, there's the image that we have inside of the post. So no matter what your design is, whether you have something wide like this, whether you have something smaller like this with a category and an image, or a testimonial with also images, text, doesn't matter what it is, or something fancy like this, you can drag in any data, and it's almost always a combination between images, text fields, custom fields, the excerpt, which is the preview, some buttons, some links. That's how you create a preview for posts. Here's another example where I've used loops. Here you can see it's a title, it's a custom field, another custom field for the location, 3 other custom fields, and an image. And this whole box, I've made that clickable, so not individual things. You can also do that, because for this design, I thought that was kind of nice. If you click on it, then you go to the actual post, so /properties/ the actual name of the post. So it all works in the same way. I hope that that makes sense now. For now, I'm just going to delete my image and delete the terms, because this is all I want. Again, this design is not good, but whatever. For now, it's good. And you can click on publish, and then it doesn't open the conditions. Why not? Because that's what you expect. You now know that it constantly opens the conditions. There's not even a condition option over here. And that is because what you're actually saving is just one of these loops. These loops don't have a condition. The archive has conditions, the single post templates has conditions, but you can drag in a loop anywhere on any page, so it's not based on conditions. Therefore, Elementor doesn't have to know where you use that, because you can decide wherever you want to use a loop template by using the loop grid widget, which I cannot find right now because I'm inside of a loop. Let me open another page. Here you can see it, loop grid. So we're going to use that widget in the next episode to add loop grids to whatever page we want or to a template. So all you have to remember for now is that loops don't have conditions. Let me show you an example of where we have a lot of loops. So here inside of this bigger website, if you go to loop, we have all of the loops. Let's see what's inside. Let's open this one. This is the team one. It should be this one. Okay, I'm going to open the team loop. And as you can see, it's very wide because I haven't set up the preview over here, but this is just one loop. It still shows the header and the footer, but don't care about that. It's just one loop. Let me show another one, the loop jobs loop. Here you can see this is actually the same as we tried to do, but then it's designed a little bit better, right? Here's also the excerpt, the title. And then the only thing that's different here is that I've also added a shadow on the actual main container in order to make sure that each loop has a little bit of shadow and like a line, a dotted line. But again, this is not a design video, but it all works in the same way. Let me show you one more block loop. Let's see how that looks. Okay, here you can see it's very wide, but it's the same thing. There's an image. Here I've used a heading and then I've imported some terms. But I could have also used the post info one. There's a read more button that links to the post URL. So I hope that is now clear how the loops work. You can create loops for anything. And if it doesn't link to anything, then just don't link anything, right? Let me do one more example for one that doesn't link to anything, which is the testimonial loop. So here you can see the testimonial one. None of these things links to anything, not even the name, as you can see. We just leave the link empty so that the people can never go to the actual page. And that's all you need to know for loops. Let's now start working with loop grids.